Yeah, my name's Will Walker, and I've been with Aceable for about 4 years, a little over, and I'm the supervisor of manual QA.
My name is Corey Monreal Jackson, and I started with Aceable back in December 2021. I work as the QA automation lead for the whole QA.
We largely just review design and developer requirements for different features and fixes within our product. Then we kind of just go through and ensure that those requirements are working as expected after the development life cycle. On the manual side, we build out test cases, which are just step-by-step instructions to make sure something is working as expected. It's kind of like an instruction manual for a specific thing. And then we build out test plans to ensure that efficient processes are in place.
To add to Will's comment, we pretty much prevent as many bugs as possible from reaching the user. We're basically highly evolved beavers that are building the dams to protect their habitat.
Manual QA consists of subject matter experts. We have the team divided between product, our e-commerce marketing side, and then our internal tools. So that'd be Jarvis. And on the manual side, we just test individual features across all of those different platforms. And we build out those test cases, which are, again, the step-by-step instructions on how to test things out. And then we build what are called test runs, which are just a collaboration of test cases. So you can think of them like a subset or like all the ingredients in a sandwich. And then the test run is the sandwich that we go through to make sure things are working like we want them to. And so that's like by and large what the manual team does on a day-to-day basis.
The role automation plays in QA, at least to my understanding and feel for it, is to provide repeatable and reliable tests that we can offer immediate and consistent feedback to the developers. And we do that through regression. And regression is essentially just using those test cases, and we run them every single time developers commit their code, just so they can always see like if something is going wrong or if everything's good to go, then they have nothing to worry about.
We are probably one of the more cross-functional teams at Aceable. We partner with everyone from CX, triaging bugs and issues that our students interface with and find, to the engineering team, the marketing team, our product team. It's all just highly cross-functional. We're often a stopgap or a check to make sure that things are working the way we want them to. We like to ensure that quality products go out, both to like our external customers, right, which are our students that take the courses, but also to our internal customers as well. So, for example, like the LX team writing out courses, they use features in Jarvis that we help test and review. And quality is just kind of this company-wide goal, and we on the QA team try to help ensure larger upstream quality requirements are laid out and agreed on early on in like the software development process, and that everyone agrees on it. Success is like just such a hugely collaborative thing within Aceable, and a lot of QA is not just, you know, that, oh, we caught a major bug. It's making sure that all teams have like these solid practices and requirements lined up to just help keep the product going in the right direction. And when I say requirements, that's a list of like, these things must happen for a feature to work as expected. To go back onto my cooking analogy with the sandwich and the pieces, like you can't have a sandwich without bread. Like some people might disagree with that, but that like you need the bread. And so that's like a requirement of a sandwich. It's like making sure all the ingredients are there. Critical thinking is probably one of the larger items that we kind of look at and look for, just because there's being able to live in this binary world of, you know, if A, then B, but there's also a lot of nuance, right? We live in a world of nuance where, if A, then B might be a great thing, like on the engineering side, but for the end customer, it might not be so good. So it's calling out pain points that we might see during the testing process. And to compound onto that, you have to be confident in what you don't know, right? You have to be able to say, hey, I don't know if this is working right. Sometimes just through testing, we get some biases being so familiar with our product that we might think something new is not working correct. So you just have to be able to be confident in saying, hey, I don't know A or B or C, or just any number of variables. And you have to be able to ask questions and just be like confident that you'll get like this full understanding of those, aforementioned requirements is just like so critically important.
And to add on more to Will's comment, I would say like communication is very obviously a key factor in how we run things. And more specifically, like passive and active communication. Like there are times where we just need to be told what the problem is from the team and how we can help. There are other times we need to inform them like, hey, I think there are some things you may not be noticing, and that's important. I mean, the best way to put it too, it's like my mom always would tell me, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. Like, I can't tell you how many times my mom was like, it's your tone of voice. It's your tone of voice. And that's another thing. Like when you convey a problem, the tone you're using can really express things to people that you may not want to express or imply. And so having these like core concepts of communication down really affect how we can function as a team and be successful cross-functionally.
I would say seek to understand. We're always, as we just mentioned, we're always just communicating and asking questions and trying to fact find, so that way we can know and go from this world of nuance to try to get closer to like we know exactly how this thing is supposed to work. So I would say seek to understand is definitely the one that we embrace the most. We attend stand-ups and meetings for like our specific dev teams and the groups that we support. And from there, we prep those test cases, which are, again, those step-by-step instructions, and handle those test runs to make sure that any new features are working as expected, to make sure bugs are working as expected. And then to sort of pass the buck on over to Corey and the automation team, we do our best to notify the automation side once a new feature is working as expected and those test cases are ready, so they can start working on like the automation aspect of it.
The usual day for automation consists of cataloging the tickets that manual sends to us and deciding what are good candidates for automation. But on top of that, like obviously once we've decided what's a good candidate for automation, we actually code that and we just get it added to our regression, just so, again, more coverage is better. And the last thing is we spend a lot of time contemplating our existence, and it's like we write code to check code, but who checks our code? There's just a lot of, that's good food for thought.
I'd say like being such a cross-collaborative team, right? We work with CX, marketing, product, engineering. We work with everyone. There's so many different teams that it can be a struggle to manage our own priorities, right? And then on top of this, there's the work that we want to do to enhance quality processes, that it can be difficult to say manage that queue of work, especially when all these other cross-functional teams believe that their work is the most impactful or important. So for us, it comes down on the manual side to trying to triage and figure out like this process list for us to make sure that we can get all of our shit done.
So this may not seem like the biggest challenge, but I would say it's just the whole concept of you don't know what you don't know. It's just like an ever looming cloud above us, and like you never know when it's going to come out. But it's one of those things where, like, as the QA team, we always try to account for all the potential possibilities and variables that may occur in any given situation. But we're human. There's only so many of us compared to the thousands of users Aceable has. Someone's going to like mash their keyboard in such a way where they're going to discover a bug. And so that's just, in and of itself, it's very difficult to account for the fact that they may be doing something very unique that we never thought of. And yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest challenge, even though it may not seem like it. Some of the most common requests, I would say, is someone asking us to confirm if their code is working correctly, because the regression might return some failures and they may not understand why. And so we're helping them troubleshoot. And then some other requests are like, hey, do you mind adding automation or QAing XYZ thing? And I would say for the former, it just ensures the reliability of the code that's coming out and the quality of the product, while the latter is more so affecting like how comfortable people feel with their work and that there's a layer of protection involved, so they don't have to like lose sleep at night wondering if something's going to break. There are already tests to account for that, and just peace of mind.
I would say on the manual side, each QA on the manual end of things has received countless messages that say, hey, do you have a second to test this for me? Which is great, but it can kind of jump in and mess up our internal queue sometimes. So one thing that I try to do is push people to make QA task tickets where they've outlined just what they needed to have tested, like what the acceptance is for that, just so that way, instead of going to like one siloed person, anyone on the team can just go and snag that request and get that done by like end of day. I think we'd all like to see just kind of a larger focus on written requirements and just less siloed knowledge. What that does is just help us keep things in Confluence pages, so that way with these larger projects, we don't, and when I say we, I mean both like the holistic, like we as an org and the QA team specifically, don't need to go digging through Jira tickets to find specific requirements or answers to questions. I think we've already started that initiative a little bit. Right, it's just following through on it, and so that's like one of the biggest things I think that makes my job on the manual side easier, is just seeing like that larger focus. And then aside from that, to kind of elaborate on that answer to that last question, is just like putting requests into QA tickets, then pinging the QA help channel. We like to help out people as often and as best we can, but going through that more generalized area of the QA help channel helps minimize distractions for the individual, and just like allows for a greater focus time that can end up being super impactful on our work.
And not to sound like too much, I'm just literally echoing the exact same thing Will said, but it is true. Like, it's more so about the specific and precise communication, regardless if it's like a Slack message or a Jira ticket, like with the requirements. It's just that anytime there's something vague, it's very easy for people to interpret different meanings out of it. And it's kind of like whenever you're hungry or someone else is hungry, you're like, oh, what do you want to eat? It's like, I don't know. But then you start going down the list and they just keep saying no to everything until eventually it's like, oh yeah, I do want Italian. It's like, well, we could have started with that and saved a lot of time. It's not to say that's anyone's fault, and it's not like necessarily a specific change. It's more so something everyone can always keep improving on, no matter like what role you're in or what contribution level you are, whether it's an individual contributor or even someone at the executive level. It's just something that we all can always work on.
I think the shortest way to do that would be to message me on Slack. I've been at Aceable all over 4 years, and I got my start with the company in CX and moved over to QA. And I got there by taking Udemy courses, and legitimately the person that was previously in my role, I just kept bothering them on Slack until they gave me work, and then just gave me work hand over fist. And that's how I started the process, is I just annoyed the person on Slack. And that got me, started doing like basic test cases and doing end-to-end testing on new courses. And, we found little times here and there to do that. And on the QA side, since we are so cross-functional, there's always work to do. There's always a project to work on, and I'm just eternally happy to help coach and give feedback that was given to me when I wanted to make that transition. So, messaging me on Slack, my calendar is usually pretty up to date. If someone needs to like throw a block of time on there to just like talk about shit, yeah, that's how.
Again, I feel like I sound like I'm copying Will, but it is true. Like, just go ahead and hit me up on Slack. It's one of those things where it's easy to just quickly feed you some quick information that might help. But also, if you just don't want to engage with me at all, which, I understand, like I'm a part of the QA boogeyman. Like no one really wants to engage with us unless they absolutely have to. But I mean, the best thing to do is just immerse yourself in it, whether it's YouTube or, like Will had mentioned, Udemy courses. There's a good website called Ministry of Testing. They have a lot of resources between articles, podcasts, newsletters, etc. And they have some courses, free and paid. You can always look at them, see what might be more of like your jam. There's also a podcast, Test Guild Automation Podcast. They just talk shop about like new and old technologies, best practices, etc. All the buzzwords that everyone loves to hear. I mean, you can't really, between those two sources, like that's pretty solid. And then for the coding portion of automation, just getting your feet wet, like, go to Code Academy, just get a feel for how the concepts of software engineering and development work. And pretty much the more and more you start doing it, the easier it gets. And we can give you a small ticket or something, or just give you an idea, show the code base and let you see how it looks and get a better understanding of it. But yeah, again, always feel free to reach out to us. Like, we like to believe we're friendly people. I think I'm a friendly person, but you never know. I'm sure Will begs to differ. But end of the day, like, we do want everyone to feel comfortable with us and everyone to feel like we want each other to succeed.